Clarke, how disappointing is it for you to walk out of here without a win with the way you pitched tonight?
Yeah, I mean, frustrating for sure. I think obviously part of the game. I think you go through streaks like this where, you know, sometimes you're mashing the ball and things are falling, and then sometimes, you know, things aren't kind of going your way. So part of the game. Obviously, we play 162 for a reason, and I think, you know, like I said, you go through streaks like this, but frustrating for sure.
How significant was it for you personally to work into that eighth inning?
Yeah, I mean, huge. I think, you know, just continuing to refine the arsenal, continuing to get better every time I go out there. Obviously, not having a spring training and continuing to get sharper and sharper every time I go out there is very encouraging for me. And, you know, I think we're continuing to push the envelope of going deep in games continuously, you know, pushing 6, 7. So, as you know, that's what quality starters do in this game. So, really encouraged by that.
You had a stretch, I believe, where you retired 15 in a row. Just what did you feel like was particularly good about your stuff tonight?
I thought we did a really good job of keeping them off balance. I think, you know, just continuing to refine the mix of where the fastballs find a, you know, fit in the equation. I think 4-seam, 2-seam, cutter, and then picking our spots with the breaking balls. And I think, you know, we're doing a really good job of that and getting to really good areas. I feel very, you know, comfortable out there, not trying to do too much, and, you know, staying within myself and trying to not gear down a little bit, but just control myself a little bit more. And you know, the misses are a little bit finer, and just getting to really good areas.
How does it affect your pitching when your team's also being shut out?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta be as fine as possible. Obviously, I think, you know, there's no room for error, and you don't want to give up a solo shot when you're in those situations late in the game and stuff like that. And you know, it's a tie game, so it's kind of like a playoff atmosphere a little bit, where you're trying to just be fine. You know, runs come at a premium at that point. So, I mean, it gets you prepared for playoffs for sure.
How do you feel to see JohnCarlo back in the lineup?
Yeah, it's great. I think he's obviously a presence, and you know, he looks really locked in. I think this is kind of like, you know, seeing him around here, moving around here, the way he's kind of carrying himself before the games and stuff. It felt a little bit like playoff G, just very locked in and, you know, ready to go. So it's exciting to have him back.
Clarke, can you talk about an offense like this, how unlikely it is to struggle to score runs for a number of games now? How unusual, unlikely, I guess is the best word for it.
Yeah, I think, you know, unlikely is a good word for it. I think, you know, we understand that it's a long season, and, you know, like I said, you go through stretches like this where, you know, the ball is kind of not finding holes, and then, you know, you go through stretch where everything finds a hole and you're mashing everything. So, not concerned in the slightest. I think, you know, I trust my guys, and, you know, we all know, you know, what everybody's capable of doing in here, so we'll figure it out.